lot of people have been calling me about Speaker. All I can say is we'll do whatever is best for the country and for the Republican Party.
Would you take the job? Would you take the job?
We have some great people.
All right, so that's former President Donald Trump speaking earlier this week about whether he'd be open to becoming the next Speaker of the House. And at just after midnight last night, Trump did endorse Jim Jordan for Speaker of the House, posting this on Truth Social, saying he will, quote, be a great Speaker of the House and has my complete and total endorsement. For more on how the chips might fall next week, I want to welcome in former Pennsylvania Senator and senior Newsmax political contributor Rick Santorum, Ben Weingarten, John Burnett also back with us. Senator, great to have you on. Good morning.
Thank you, Rob. Good morning to you.
So Donald Trump officially endorsing Jim Jordan last night. Does this make Jordan the front runner for the gavel next week?
Internal politics are very different than external politics. I mean, obviously, when you look at anybody who runs for office as a Republican in a primary, Donald Trump's endorsement is gold. That's not necessarily the case when it comes to internal politics. There are a lot of dynamics going on with this type of race. For example, I mean, Jordan, very popular among the base, et cetera. But there are things that speakers do and leaders of the party do in Washington that are much more important to members than whether they're endorsed by Donald Trump. For example, fundraising. Jim Jordan is not a prolific fundraiser. Kevin McCarthy, that was his calling card. He could raise an enormous amount of money. You say, well, what does that matter? Well, Republicans are habitually outraised by the Democrats in congressional races. They've been losing race after race because of losing the fundraising battle by 2, 3, 4 to 1. And so McCarthy, being that prolific fundraiser, one of the reasons he had such support within the party was that he could raise an enormous amount of money. And that's not really Jordan's thing. And the other problem, and on the other hand, Steve Scalise, very good fundraiser, but has not been well, and his travel schedule is limited, and so there's concern there. So there's all sorts of dynamics that you're not probably hearing.
Senator, let me just I want to bring in Ben and John, but you mentioned internal politics. So and we were talking about this just a couple of moments ago here on set. So if you are one of the 435 or one of the 200 plus on the Republican side in the Republican conference, and Donald Trump, the leading candidate for the Republican nomination, former president, endorses Jim Jordan, and then you don't vote for Jim Jordan, and then Donald Trump becomes president, guess what? You're out. You're on the outside looking in. And that's the way Donald Trump views the world. And some of these, I'm not talking about the firebrands. I'm talking about just middle of the road, moderate Republicans who are part of the conference who might be influenced to support Jordan just because they want to curry favor with the guy who might become president in 13 short months.
Yeah, I don't really see it that way. I don't think he's gonna. This is a different story. This isn't a loyalty test to Donald Trump like his other endorsements are. These are all elected officials doing what is in their own best, in their own self-interest. I don't think Trump's going to hold it against anybody. I don't see any record of that he would hold it against anybody to not vote for Jordan. This is a completely separate thing. I think every member is going to do what's in their own interest, what they think is in the interest of the conference and the interest of them themselves getting reelected and Republicans keeping control of the House.
So Senator Ben Weingarten here, in terms of the inside baseball of all of this, put yourself in Jim Jordan's shoes. What kinds of deals are you contemplating cutting with purple district representatives to try and seal up their support right now? What's going on in the rooms that we're not seeing right now?
Yeah, I don't think Jim Jordan's effort is going after purple folks. I mean, there's a couple dozen more moderate Republicans in the House. They're not. I guarantee you, they're not looking at Jim Jordan as an option. In fact, they're probably quite concerned about Jim Jordan as an option.
All right, well, let me just, Senator, do you have a candidate that you like right now?
I don't. And it wouldn't matter if I did. It wouldn't have any impact.
Just for the sake of this conversation, is there somebody that you're leaning toward in private that you don't want the world to know about, but just tell us?
No, I really don't. Look, I know all these. I know several of these guys. I don't know Kevin Hurd very well, but there are folks who bring different things to the table. And again, this is not an issue that the average voter is going to understand.
Senator, there's nobody that you're leaning toward out of all these different names that have been thrown around.
I have concerns about all of them. I have concerns. I have concerns about Scalise.
That is a very politician answer right there. I have concerns about all of them.
It is,
but you don't think Jim Jordan's the right guy for the job. That much it seems like it's clear.
No, I'm concerned. I'm concerned about his ability to be able to form coalitions that you got to govern. Speakers have to govern, and if you don't govern, if you just come down and say, it's on my way or the highway, then you're going to get rolled, because there are a couple of dozen Republicans who, if things don't move, will move to the Democrats.
So what you're saying is
we have about 15 seconds left, by the way, so this is.
So what you're saying is we might be back in the same position right after Jim Jordan gets a few months as Speaker.
Worse. I mean, that's the real problem. Okay. You're being worse position, because if a Speaker can't form coalitions among Republicans and get Republicans to work together and have moderates and conservatives find a consensus, then you have no choice but to go and get the Democrats.
Senator, I'm going to mark you down as a maybe for Jim Jordan, okay? Hope you have a great weekend. It's going to be interesting to watch how this plays out. They're all working the phones because not many members are still in Washington. Rick Santorum, great to see you as always. Thank you.
Thank you.